Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar. We are very happy to have you here today. My name is Elisa Sklar. I am the VP of Marketing here at GIS Planning, and I am delighted to be here with my colleague, Stevie Field Chavez, also from GIS Planning. Hello, Stevie.
Hi, Lisa. How are you?
I am great, and we are so excited to show everyone the all-new ZoomProspector Enterprise. We're going to take you on a tour and show you what this means. We're going to be using the State of Indiana site so that you can see what this means for Indiana communities and what options there are for you, what great new features and functionality you can take advantage of. So we are very proud to say at GIS Planning that we've consistently been the innovators when it comes to online GIS data tools. You will probably know that we are the ones who first came up with ZoomProspector Enterprise, first disrupted the industry when it came to providing an online solution for mapping available commercial sites and buildings aggregated with hundreds and thousands of different data points that you can map together so that businesses looking to make location decisions can do their due diligence and do all this investigation ahead of time, and that also economic developers can use this internally to prepare responses for RFPs and prepare business cases for businesses who've approached them. So what we have done this year is taken what is already the industry's leading GIS online data tool, and we have completely rebuilt it from the ground up to take into account what we've been hearing from clients for years, what we've seen as emerging best practices, what we're hearing from site selectors and businesses who use the tools. And that's what we're going to show you here today. And we're very happy to take any questions that you might have. You will notice that there is a questions field on the right-hand side of your screen in the GoToWebinar control panel. So if you do have any questions, please feel free to put that in there. I'll keep an eye on that, and we will take those at the end. And the other thing I wanted to let you know is that we are actually recording today's session, and I will be sharing with you in the next couple days a link to the video recording so you can share it with colleagues or review it at your convenience. So before I hand this over to Stevie, I just wanted to run through some of the things that are really most different about this brand new version of GIS Planning ZoomProspector. First of all, you'll see that we have now put together a split screen map. So you now have the map on the right-hand side. It is expandable to make it bigger if you want to, and you have the property results on the left-hand side of the screen. And we felt that this was really part of the best practices when it comes to these kinds of websites. It's something you'll see on Zillow, you'll see it on Airbnb, and being able to give your website users the ability to see simultaneously where things are on the map and then get details about them on the left-hand side really seemed to be a very big deal. We're getting rave reviews from people who are using that on the site. Now, the other thing that we've really done with this new version of ZoomProspector is that we've made the data as analyzable as possible. So these are not static PDFs. This is something that invites your website users to spend time with the data, to drill in. They can now dynamically sort the data within reports in different ways, so they can click on something and adjust on the fly. The other way we've done this is allow you to have a radius tool that you can drag to make bigger or smaller, and as you drag the tool, you'll notice that the results in the reports on the left-hand side will adjust on the fly dynamically so that they reflect the new radius that you've selected. We have the pinpoint tool, which was always very popular. Drag the pinpoint, drop it on the map. You could do all kinds of analysis around that specific point by drive time, by radius. The other thing that we've put into this tool that's really new is our free draw tools. That allows you to grab the cursor from the bottom right and literally draw an area. You want to show something around a lake. You want to show something around a particular building. You want to map around a highway corridor, for example. You can draw that, your website users can use that, and then you can do analysis around the area that you've drawn in that way. Our heat maps are newer, bigger, and better than ever. We're allowing people to save properties into multiple project files, because I know, especially economic developers, you probably have multiple projects on the go, so you can now save reports and properties into those different files that you name. You can search sites and buildings together, which is something we heard from clients being important. You'll see that our report design is new and updated and beautiful, and there is so much more. And so with that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass this over to Stevie, and she is going to start walking you through the site itself so that you can see what that actually looks like.
Very good. All right, let me see. Can you see my screen, Elisa?
I can. Looks great.
Very good. Okay. All right. Hi, everyone, and thank you so much for taking time out of your day to join us. We are limited with our time today, so we're going to tootle through this pretty quickly. If you have any questions, Elisa will put up contact information and email addresses at the end of the webinar, so you have a resource in order to ask additional questions. And as well, it's always a great idea to get a private demo. We can set up a meeting very similar to this, only it's just you and us, and we can walk you through the tools, answer your questions in real time using live examples of the state application. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and get started and kind of show you a couple of the examples that Elisa just pointed out, some of the new features and tools of the site. So first of all, here you can see we've got several featured properties. We've programmed this site so these featured properties come up first. That's always an option for our clients. We have several different banners to choose from. Featured is one of those. As Elisa mentioned, you have the ability to filter an area by free draw, so we'll show you that. And I can search by multiple different variables. So I can search by city. Here's going to be we've got various cities, counties, metros, and regions. And you can see I've got my little drop down here. Now for those regional organizations, and I believe county organizations as well, you have the ability to add, modify, and delete properties that are in the system that are for your respective area. So if you want more information on that, feel free to call Brian, whose information will be provided at the end of the session. So I'm just going to select, here we'll select Midwest Indiana Economic Development. And let's hope we selected someone who's got, there we go, properties. You never know, I should have probably done that before. So I selected a particular region. Maybe I'm interested in only sites or only buildings. So I can select one, and as Elisa mentioned, it's very responsive. So it will automatically provide us with the results that we're seeking based on boxes that we've checked. I can search by size, and this could be square feet or acres by clicking this box. For sale or for lease, various types of property that I'm looking for, and then our more filters category will allow you to put either the name of a property or an address, lease rate, sale price, or various assets. These assets were selected specifically by the state, and so if you have one of these tools in your own community or are interested in one, you have the ability to customize these assets for your community specifically. I also have the ability to, as we mentioned, free draw. Maybe I've selected the variables that I'm interested in, but I know I'm only interested in a particular area of this region. So I'm going to free draw my hand around that and say, you know, I'm not super familiar with the area, but I know I just want to be in this particular location, and I can apply that filter to my search, and only properties that are highlighted in this area will show up in our search as options. One of the coolest features that I love about this new tool is the ability to save properties. Now, on the last platform, we could save a property and it would automatically save in your results. Now you have the ability of creating a folder. I'm going to call this folder X. And I'm going to add this folder. So I can create as many folders as I'd like, and I can save properties to multiple different locations. And as long as I come back, you know, I come back from my computer, my properties will stay in my folder, and I can view those properties at any time. I also have the ability to send my folder of properties. Let's click on this little box here. I can send this entire folder with all of the properties attached via, I can print it off in a PDF. I can print it off in Excel. I can also share it with an email address, or on any of the social media networks. So if I send this to a site selector who's interested in one of these sites or buildings, or multiple that I've selected for them, they'll get the entire folder full of properties just off of this link. So it's a very easy process to share properties. And again, you can create as many folders as you'd like. You're no limit. All right, let's go back to our properties here, and let's take a look at some of the properties that we have selected and some of the information that's available on these properties. So we'll look at Purdue Research Park. This is phase 3. One of the things I'd like to point out is here we have the ability to look at community information with just one click. There is another location for this information, so I'm not going to click on this now, but we will revisit this here in just a bit. We have the primary contact for this property, so I can fill out this information and get Paul's attention and let him know that I'm interested in finding out more information. Our property description, details. Again, we have the city information as well as county profile information, and we'll take a peek at what those look like here in a bit. Property availability, site details, transportation, there's multiple variables. One thing I'd like to pull attention to is the fact that we don't have spaces that don't have an answer. Any space, for instance, if electrical wasn't filled out or distance to substation wasn't filled out, these would not show up in the property report. So you don't have to worry about a lot of blank space when you go to print this out or do a PDF or share this property. If I scroll all the way down to the bottom here, we have contact information here for the Research Foundation, information, we've got our logo, and at the very bottom on all of the different pages, you're able to see the cities served, the counties, the metro, and the regions for the state as a whole. So at any time I want to go to any one of these communities' properties, I can click this and it's going to take me to that particular county's available sites and buildings. So let's scroll back up. I'm going to try not to make you dizzy. Elisa, do you have something to throw in there?
No, I think that's really important. I think it's really also useful to hammer home that we don't show those empty fields, that there's so many things that people can choose from, but really making sure that they don't have anything that shows up as empty is quite critical.
Absolutely. And the ability to share this property is so important. Do not forget, as you're marketing your available sites and buildings, the ability to use these in your electronic newsletters or on social media, on LinkedIn, and a lot of communities now have Facebook or Twitter. Check out this new research park, phase 3. You can share that document, and so anybody who clicks on that will go directly into this page, into the state application. So it's a very seamless process. Our demographics, labor force, and consumer expenditure information is of course included. It's updated 2 times annually and provided by Applied Geographic Solutions. Interesting thing, you know, we hear a lot about ESRI, or otherwise known as ESRI here. Why we chose Applied Geographic Solutions, or AGS. Funny enough, ESRI used to use AGS before they got into the data business. The data is consistent. They're all zip +4 block group level data. It may differ by a point or 2, but the methodology is very much the same, and the consistency of the those who use Applied Geographic Solutions, such as Google, for example, we felt was good enough for us, and so we've valued the data, and they've been a great client of ours. At any time, you can modify our radius search here by just dragging our button. I think Elisa alluded to this, so my information here is automatically changed 15 miles just because I dragged this our little radius around. Our demographic information is going to change, and at any time, by just engaging this little button, I can activate our maps. These are our heat maps. Heat maps, it's another way of looking at data. So now I'm able to, in a more visual way, see where our more high concentration of areas are and our more rural areas are. Let's turn that off, and we have our age distribution 2018 as well as 2023. This information will be updated, I believe, in May of this year. It usually happens in the late spring and in fall, so that these numbers here will change to 2019 and 2024. We have the ability to look at it in a data report format or our graph format. And when you export it, it will export as you have it on your screen. So there's, as I mentioned, there's other ways to look at data, and sometimes those ways, you know, it resonates with different people. I'm more of a pictures kind of person, and so this means something to me when I can see it in this type of format. So I guess it's really knowing your audience. Again, any of this information can be exported. Our labor force and consumer expenditure is very similar information, different data points, but similar reports in terms of the breakdown. Here we have establishments by size. I can see I've got, you know, a good handful of mid-level employers, and then our breakdown of establishments by type. Just because of the sake of time, I'm going to skip over consumer expenditures super quick. It really is going to highlight where our residents are spending our money, and I can see, oh, there we go. I went a little too fast. GoToMeeting has sometimes a little bit of a delay. Our wage and salary information is brought to you by the Bureau of Labor Statistics, and it's going to show us our mean hourly and median hourly, as well as our annual wages by category. So I'm able to break this down and find specific categories of occupations, and if the data was available in terms of their annual wage, where this information is in terms of their hourly and annual wage, and I can again export that information. Our business information is very different. It's one of my favorite reports because it provides so much data. Here we have different businesses all broken out by industry. I'm clicking on these little dots to get the name of this company, as well as their address, their estimated sales, and their estimated employees. Our business information comes from Info USA, otherwise known as Info Group, and is updated 4 times annually. So the value of that is that we understand businesses come and go in communities, and we really want to capture that change as much as possible. And so updating this on a quarterly basis really ensures that we're capturing the most up-to-date data available. We can scan into this report, and we can see breakdowns of different industry types, as well as different business types. I'm sorry, I don't know why I blanked on that word. So if I'm interested in finding out where our engineer offices are, I've clicked this. So now it's going to provide me a list of the different engineers that are engineering firms that are available, and I can see by sales and estimated employees if they're like my type of business. It's a great tool to find kind of where the holes in a community are. So I may be interested in expanding or relocating a particular business, and I want to go where maybe it's not highly concentrated with those in my same industry. This is our talent report. It's one of our more one of the most recent reports that we've launched. This will map out actually our top 5 programs by number of graduates, as well as our top universities by number of graduates, and then a breakdown of the fields of study and what they're actually studying in. So here we have agricultural. I can see I've got a fair amount of bachelor degrees coming out of agricultural and business management. And so I can click on these boxes, and it's going to provide me with the name of the information, or the learning institutions of where our graduates are coming from. So this is really meeting the need of employers who are looking at your area to make sure that they have the workforce that's needed to actually work at the companies that they're bringing in. So remember how we talked about the city and the county profile? This is that data that we're talking about. It's an aggregate of all of the information that we have. So we're kind of getting an overview, if you will, of the population. We have here our age distribution. These reports are interactive. Educational attainment. labor force. There's one for every community in the state. So if you haven't checked this out, check this out. It's worth emailing it to yourself or to your membership. And again, you can take this out in kind of a PDF format, and you can look at this data and maybe send this to someone who's considering your area for expansion or relocation. We have the ability as well to explore different communities. Here we go. And again, I have the ability to save communities, and this might be valuable if I'm researching various communities to expand or relocate, and I'm thinking I want to keep them on the forefront of my mind and do a property search. So I might keep these communities in a folder of potential options for where my site might be best located. At any time, I can look at the details of the community, and again, you're going to get that same, what we call infographic, that has the interactive information of kind of aggregate community information. Going back to the property search button, a few more things to point out is our map layers box. We have several map layers that are in here. Some you can click on any one of these. We've got our counties, MSAs, block grouped. We also have transportation, perhaps if I'm interested in ports or rail. I'm kind of clicking because you never know what different communities have. But one I'd really like to point out is under incentives, and it's our opportunity zones. I know many of you are now getting inquiries in terms of opportunity zones, and for those of you who have communities who have approved census tracts in your opportunity zones, this is a really helpful tool. You can help program, your user can see if that property is in an opportunity zone as they're kind of conducting their search, and I can see more visually where my opportunity zones are located. If you have opportunity zones in your area and you're interested more on how to market those in tools such as these, feel free to call Brian. His information will be provided at the end of the demo, and he can give you a couple of ideas on tools that we've developed to help market those opportunity zone properties. We understand the importance of those. Lisa, can you think of anything that we need to probably dive in a little bit deeper on? I know that was a very quick overview.
Yeah, no, I think you actually did a great job, and I know it can feel a little overwhelming at first if you're just seeing all these different features flying by you. I don't know if I missed it, but if you go back into one of the properties, I just wanted to show how we can actually adjust the data dynamically on any of the reports. So if you just choose, let's say, demographics or labor force, and you can actually click on the default. You see where age distribution where it says default with the two little arrows. You can click on that on the right-hand side. There you go. And it gives you different ways to sort the data. So if you're more interested in seeing it alphabetically, or you want to see maximum value, or go back to the default minimum value, that gives you the opportunity to do that. And also with the radius, as you go back in, you'll notice it generates heat maps for us. You can actually click if you want to go from block group down to zip code level. At the bottom, under it says zip code level. I think you actually mentioned that, Stevie, but I thought that was kind of a neat way to capture the granularity of our data so that you can really get it at the regional level, but you can also really drill down and make those much more hyper-local assessments, because after all, when businesses are looking to invest, they're interested at the bigger picture, but they also really want to know what's right around their particular location options. So that's another neat way to be able to do that. Yeah, and as you say,
I'm glad that you pointed that out. Those were great, great catches. And boy, you learn something new at GIS planning every day, because the default alphabetical, I didn't know that. That's new information. So
there you go.
I feel like I can rest my head on my pillow tonight that I've learned something new.
There you go. That's excellent. Okay, and I do see that we actually have some questions. I don't know, Steve, if you had anything else you wanted to show before I jump over those?
No, let's absolutely go for the questions.
Okay, so just a reminder to those of you who are watching, we do have some questions that have come in, but on the right-hand side on the GoToWebinar control panel is a questions field. please feel free to put that in there. So Elena wants to know if we can get analytics on how many times viewers are using the data tools. So that's a really great question, actually, because we, as you know, offer several layers of analytics. If you are using your ZoomProspector analytics, which is in the admin section or the back end of your site, you can get all sorts of data on what people are doing with the site. So what kinds of reports they're looking at, what properties they're looking at, what are the top communities, and it gives you that kind of analytics. But even better is the next layer of analytics, which is what we call lead gen ID. And that gives you detailed information on which companies are searching the website and what actually they're looking at. What are their search criteria? So they're looking at office space or industrial space, or they looked at this demographics report, or they looked at this property, or they did a 10-mile radius search around this particular location. So we've coded the back end of Lead Gen ID, which is provided to us by a company called Lead Forensics, but we've added this additional layer of coding so you can get very detailed information on how many times viewers are using the data tools, but even better, on what they are looking at and what properties they're spending time on. And that's something that you get included and bundled in with our full edition ZoomProspector tool. So
that was a great question. I'm so glad the analytics were hit, because analytics will really give you a full picture of what people are doing on your website. And so those analytics, that's half the battle for economic development organizations, is to understand what's going on their website and the interest that others are seeing in terms of potential expansion and relocation opportunities.
Absolutely. I mean, that's really actionable intelligence. If you see that a company from a particular office in wherever part of the world or city in North America, you can reach out to them proactively because you've now got all this great data on what they're looking for, and contact them and say, I see you've been on our website. Can I help you with anything? Now, you don't know the name of the specific person. That would be a little creepy. We don't go that far. But you'll know, for example, if GIS Planning was on your website looking at something, you wouldn't know that it was Elisa or Stevie. So we have another question from Cheryl on if you could clarify the communities served area at the bottom when you scroll down. So I guess, Stevie, she's referring to the main site. If you go back to the state of Indiana default, there you go, open page. And if you scroll down to the very bottom, it will show you the different communities within the state, and you can click over them. There's also economic development region served and county served, and if you want to, I guess we could try clicking through on one of them, and you see that it would bring us over to their page if there is something that is actually offered. So we're able to put that information in there for the clients within the state who have their own ZoomProspector set up. That would be able to link back to them. And that's at the bottom of the state site. So that's a really nice way to kind of build this larger ecosystem that funnels prospects down to you. Businesses or site selectors who are interested are able to go down there to take a look at it.
I just have to point out, kudos to the state on their map layers. You know, we get different map layers for every client, and some of the map layers that they have in here are just exceptional. If you'll take a look at real quick, we'll scroll in a little bit. I can see what size pipe goes to which individual section of the area. And so when we were looking at available site earlier, for instance, this one here, which would be Generation Springs, and I can see that this here has a natural gas, which, by the way, we need to correct that little spelling error, but I can see that this natural gas line here is a 4-inch gas line. That's a great amount of intel for someone who's doing, you know, a preliminary property search. And the whole idea of a system like this is you're qualifying these leads. People have done their research on your community. They've figured out your data. They've done a property search. They're ready to go out and kick a little dirt now. They're really ready to get serious when they call you. And so that's a great amount of intel. So hats off to the state for the creativity of the map layers. I think those are great. They're very helpful.
Absolutely, yeah. Having that additional local data just allows you to provide so much more to community, to businesses making these decisions, and to the site selectors. So that really is fantastic. Shelley asks if there is a drive time map tool as well. And we absolutely do offer drive time analysis, as you'll be able to see when Stevie will open up one of our reports.
Yes, you have the ability to, I guess I should have gone straight to report. I needed to choose a property first. So you have the ability to actually miles or minutes.
There you go.
So yeah, there it is. And there's you can see our 10-minute, I live in South Carolina now. I used to live in California, and this would be a much smaller circle. But it looks like you can go quite a distance here in 10 minutes, and you can modify this just like you could earlier. And here's 50 minutes, and so that will adjust. I think I threw it for a loop. I think it thought I was gonna say 5. So yes, you can absolutely modify your 0 to 60 minutes and 0 to 60 miles from your point of interest.
Now, Kelly asks if this is available in live on the state Indiana site, if I understand correctly your question, Kelly. And yes, absolutely. We are very pleased that Indiana was the first one of our many site clients to launch with the new tool. So once again, Indiana innovating and leading the pack when it comes to using the very latest in the data tools. And if you go over to the state site now, you'll see that this is exactly what's there. And there's so much great data available on your community from the state site. Just makes things so much easier if you're preparing business cases or responses to RFPs, or someone calls you up on the phone. Really at your fingertips, you have an incredible amount of data available to your community. You can click on the Explore Communities tab at the top, and you'll see that there as well.
And do we have any other questions?
Yeah, we have one more question, which is a couple more questions actually. If you notice locally that there is erroneous or incomplete data, is there a way to report it for correction addition? And yes, absolutely there is. And also we allow our clients to add additional local data. So please do get in touch with us. I'm going to show our I'm going to take one more question, then I'm going to show you our, actually, Stevie's showing you. You can log into the back end, the admin of your site, and you have access to Jeff Sunnison's calendar, the Director of Client Services. There's a contact form. You have access to my calendar. We try to make it super easy. And we also have live chat on the GIS planning website that is, can funnel any information over to client services. So we really do offer multiple ways for you to get in touch with us. To show us what you want. If you've noticed something that's wrong, please let us know. We pride ourselves on being extremely responsive to things like that.
Absolutely, and I do believe the state has something in place where regional organizations and counties can add, delete, and modify their the properties that are within their geographic boundaries. So I believe it's Sarah Salisbury that's our contact at the state, and so if you have any questions on that, feel free to call Jeff Sunnison, our Director of Client Services. You can email him at jsunnison, SUNESON @gisplanning.com. You might start actually with Sarah, just making sure that you have their approval, or that we get that approval, and then we can make sure that you're set up so you have the ability to add, delete, and modify properties within your boundaries.
Excellent, and I'm actually just going to bring that up here so you can see that contact information. As Stevie has said, you can contact Jeff if you have any questions related to the tool itself. I work with our clients individually to provide marketing assistance, so make sure that you are getting the best, the most out of your investment and promoting the site, looking at link placement, all things like that. If you do not yet have a ZoomProspector Enterprise tool for your particular community, you could reach out to Brian at gisplanning.com, and he will walk you through what that might look like for your community. We do index price to population to keep this affordable and scalable to communities of all sizes. I had one more question that I want to make sure that we get to, Stevie, just before we finish here, and that is from Diane asking where we get pipeline information, because they share on a small scale, but they don't always share because of security information. So this would have been data that was forwarded to us by the state.
Correct. Correct.
Any local data would have been, this is something they made an assessment that they wanted to share and would have been sent to us. And we build that local data in wherever we can, because we understand if it's important to you, then we want to make sure that it can get onto your tool if possible.
And every client is very different. It's an excellent question. Anyone who has their own site selection tool, which you have the option to do, you can provide us with your own local site layers. We'll add anything that the state has for your respective boundaries, and then any additional map layers that you want to add, we can just get it in a shape file. And I always encourage communities, and Indiana is a great example of that, of being creative and giving us, it's always nice to know that we had all of those data layer options for different points of information that we wanted to find out, and we can export that map with all of the layers activated, so a site selector can see exactly what it is we're looking at. So if you have any questions on that, again, you can follow up with Brian, or you can follow up with Jeff, and Sarah is your state contact, and so I'm sure she'll be available to answer any questions as well.
Wonderful. I think this brings us to the end of today's session. Thank you all so much for taking time out of your busy days. We are here to answer questions you might have, so you can please do get in touch. You'll get a link to this video recording within the next couple days. Stevie, thank you again for a wonderful tour and for your expertise.
Thank you so much. It was my pleasure. Thank you again, everyone, for joining us.
Have a great afternoon. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.